Bhavesh, for anyone meeting you for the first time, what's the real origin story behind 3D Measure Me?
Hi everyone, I'm Bhavesh. I'm the founder of 3D Measure Me. Before health and fitness, I was a partner in a school uniform business. We manufactured, wholesale, and retailed school uniforms. And I started and ran the retail side. Every January during back to school, we had the same problem and it hit us hard. We'd have two massive queues. One, parents buying new uniforms, and another just as long for parents who were returning or exchanging uniforms because they'd ordered the wrong size online. Who hasn't done that? We tried everything. Online size guides, instructions on how to measure yourself, in-store advice. None of it worked. People just simply couldn't measure themselves accurately. And when it came to kids, it was even worse. Now, the obvious solution back then was a 3D body scanner. But putting a scanner into every school just wasn't practical or scalable. And then asking children to regularly strip down to their underwear at school was just completely unrealistic for both schools and parents. But that's when I had a light bulb moment. I was like, smartphone cameras are getting better and better. AI is getting better. Why can't we use the phone instead? So I went looking for an app that could actually give us accurate body measurements using a smartphone. I found a few solutions that claimed to work, but when we tested them, the accuracy just was not there. Some apps claimed that they were 97% accurate, but in real-world testing, that dropped to 90% or lower. That might sound close, but in practice, it's completely useless. For example, a shirt size increases by about 5 centimeters per size, and the average adult chest is over 100 centimeters. At 90% accuracy, you'd be out by more than 10 centimeters. That's 2 shirt sizes. If you're a large, you could be recommended anything from a small to a 2XL. That's no better than guessing. So I decided we needed to build our own solution. We dug into research papers, we worked with universities, we ran our own trials, and after a lot of work, we built a system that was averaging about 97% accuracy for core body measurements in real terms. I took those results to our fashion ERP supplier, who introduced me to some of their clients for feedback. I thought this was going to be my breakthrough moment, but instead I spoke to them and it felt like my dreams got crushed. They told me 97% is still not good enough. By the time you take into account, manufacturing tolerances, fabric variation, and the fact that just the human body can change by up to 5% in a single day, accuracy had to be even higher. Then they brought up shoes. Any solution they'd consider had to be accurate enough for shoes, because shoes are their highest cost item, both in terms of product cost and shipping cost. Now, shoe sizes change by about 0.5 centimeter per size. To get that right, accuracy has to be on a whole nother level. This felt absolutely impossible. But we went back, we reassessed everything, and we realized that our initial approach wasn't going to get us there. We salvaged what we could, and we rebuilt everything from the ground up, applying everything we had learned. When we tested again, the results changed everything. We averaged over 99% accuracy. My own foot measurement came back within 1 millimeter. Around the same time, my wife started training with a personal trainer. The very first thing she did was take a full set of body measurements. Then gave my wife a piece of paper and told her to take the same measurements every week. The first week, my wife tried taking a thigh measurement. She took 3 measurements, and there was a 5 centimeter difference between them. Now, she didn't know which one was right, where was the right place to take the measurement or anything like that. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't just a fashion problem. This was a human problem. Personal trainers and everyday people needed accurate body measurements. I spoke to a trainer and several others, and I showed them what we were building and asked if they thought it would be useful. Every single one said yes. They needed clients to be able to see visual progress over time, to compare changes in their body shape, to track trends, and to be able to share the data with the trainer so the trainer could adjust the program in real time. But whatever solution it had to be touch-free and easy for the clients to do themselves. Now, this seemed doable, so that's when I decided we needed to pivot. So we started in health and fitness because it was the fastest way to be able to help real people, gather real feedback from these people, and refine the experience with these users who genuinely cared about their progress. Fashion would still come later when the ecosystem and when our systems were ready for it. But that's why 3D Measure Me currently exists. It's to make progress visible for these everyday people, so people don't give up when it matters most.
That is an incredible background story, and I certainly understand why and how 3D Measure Me has come so far so quickly. And I believe you've also got a personal transformation story tied to this. What happened and how did 3D Measure Me play a role?
Yeah, I do, Ed. So my journey didn't start with any health scare or warning or anything like that. It started because after losing a couple of family members, my wife Pooja wanted an internal dashboard of her health. Now, through 3D Measure Me, I'd actually been speaking to a practitioner who I knew was absolutely awesome. So we booked a meeting. Within minutes, I knew we were signing up for Metabolic Balance. I was skeptical, but what I liked was that it was science-based, it was personalized, and it was based on blood tests. What I didn't realize was how much I actually needed it. I was gaining weight, even though I ate less and less. My clothes didn't fit. I had ongoing shoulder pain from an injury, constant headaches, knee pain, all these things that I just quietly accepted as normal, just parts of getting older. And honestly, the hardest part was I just didn't feel comfortable in my own body. As part of the program, we also had to track progress regularly. And because I was building 3D Measure Me, I used that too. In the first week, I lost 3 kilos and 2 centimeters off my waist. Great. But when I looked in the mirror, I saw absolutely nothing. Week after week after week, my reflection in the mirror didn't change. But my 3D Measure Me weekly scans did. And it was those small wins, a kilo here, a centimeter there, that became my weekly proof that something I was doing was actually working. Without seeing that progress, I would have probably given up. And that's probably true of most people as well. A few months in, my pain completely disappeared. Absolutely nothing. Shoulders, knees. I had energy again. I could go around, run around with the kids. I felt 20 years younger. 6 months later, I'd lost 20 kilos and 15 centimeters off my waist. But here's the real lesson. That transformation isn't about perfection or before and after photos. It's about that visibility, consistency, and that small incremental progress that keeps you going. Metabolic balance was perfect for me. It gave my body what it needed. But 3D Measure Me was the thing that kept me motivated to keep going, and a year later to still maintain all those losses and that healthy lifestyle. Because when people can see progress, it motivates them and it changes what they believe is actually possible.
Let's make this practical. Say I'm a dad who's been away from the gym for a while. I'm busy, I'm tired, and I'm not exactly excited about stepping back on the scales. How does 3D Measure Me play a role in this and help me?
Honestly, that is one of the most common scenarios that we see. For dads trying to get back into shape, the challenge isn't usually knowing what to do. It's staying motivated long enough to actually see those results. Because we know you're busy, you're tired, you're juggling work, you're juggling family. And if you don't see progress early, it's very easy to think, well, what's the point of all of this, and just give up. But that's where 3D Measure Me really changes the experience. You take 4 photos, and a minute later, you get back a 3D model of your body and clear measurements that you can easily track over time. Instead of relying on just the scale, which is noisy, discouraging, and rarely tells you the full story, you can actually see changes in your waist, your chest, your arms, your overall shape, even just in the first few weeks. Now, it's that early visibility that is absolutely everything. It turns your effort into proof, and that proof is what fuels your motivation. And if you're working with like a coach or a personal trainer or something, you can share your data directly with them. So they start adjusting your programming based on what's actually working for you and what's actually happening to your body, not just guessing and thinking this may work, so let's try that.
Here's another scenario that I hear about all the time from fitness coaches. A woman in her 30s, she's been consistent, she's strength training in the gym, she's doing group classes like for 6 months, but she's shocked because her weight has actually gone up by a kilo. How do you explain that? And how does 3D Measure Me solve this frustration?
Got it. This is that terrible scale scenario again. Okay, this is such an important conversation because yes, the scale can tell the truth, but it's never the whole truth or the whole picture. If you've been strength training consistently, it's completely normal to gain muscle and to lose fat. Muscle is much denser than fat and is heavier. So the number on the scale can go up even when your body is changing for the better. On top of that, when you start looking at weight fluctuations, you also have to look at things like hydration, hormones, stress, sleep. You can easily gain a kilo without doing anything wrong at all. What 3D Measure Me does is shift the focus from one confusing number to a more complete picture. So instead of asking, did I lose weight? You can ask, did my waist change? Did my shape tighten? Are my measurements trending in the right direction? When people can see that, frustration drops and consistency goes way up. This is especially powerful for women. Across the menstrual cycle, the body physically changes. Bloating, fluid retention, shape changes. These aren't imagined. They are very real side effects of it. By scanning regularly, women can actually see those temporary changes happen. And then they can see them resolve themselves a few days later. That reassurance helps them to stay calm, to stay consistent, feel in control, and trust the process instead of spiraling, when the scale or the mirror or their body feels off.
Now, most fitness centers, gyms, wellness centers, they have a BCA machine sitting there on the floor. It may be gathering dust. Why is 3D Measure Me more convenient for members and for club owners?
I still personally use a BCA machine every quarter, as well as doing my weekly 3D Measure Me scans. But the BCA machines are still a very structured experience. You go to the gym, you book a time, you queue up, you do the scan. And for many people, most of the data, they just don't understand it. So they default to looking at what they do understand, which is weight and body fat percentage. And these two don't tell the full story. And once you start adding in variables like time of day, food, your hydration, or training beforehand, suddenly comparing results becomes very, very difficult because if you scan yourself once in the morning, first thing before you've had breakfast, and then the next time you go to the gym after a full day in the evening, you've had 2 meals, you've been drinking water, it's almost impossible to try and compare those results. And then that doesn't even touch on how self-conscious some people feel doing a scan at the gym in a public place. Even if it is hidden away from public sight, a lot of people still feel very self-conscious to be able to have to do a scan there and then, even if no one's watching. 3D Measure Me is different because it's built around real life convenience. Like the home scale, which most people still rely on. You can do the scan at home or in the gym. There's no bookings required, no staff required, no pressure. You can also scan under the same conditions every single time. Same place, same time, same routine, which dramatically improves consistency. I personally do my scan every Friday morning before breakfast after I've had my shower. And that helps drop those number of variables significantly. And the other thing is, those results are easy to understand. Because if you say, I've lost 5 centimeters off my waist, that makes sense to everyone. Everyone understands that. That convenience allows people to track progress weekly or fortnightly, not once every few months. And from a club perspective, that consistency is critical. When members can see progress regularly without friction, they stay engaged, they show up more, and they stick around for the long term.
And let's go a little bit deeper. If I'm a personal trainer, how does 3D Measure Me actually transform my business beyond just having some cool tech?
Great question, Ed. For personal trainers, results are absolutely everything, but proving results is often a lot harder than it should be. Many clients just don't want to be touched or manually measured. Tape measures vary depending on who's actually doing the measurements. Photos depend on lighting and angles. You just have to look at Instagram to see, how people use lighting and angles for that. And the scale can be extremely misleading, as we've discussed before. 3D Measure Me gives trainers a consistent, repeatable way to show progress. You get clear visuals of shape change over time, measurements and trends clients actually understand, and a much clearer story of what the program is actually doing. This leads to 3 big outcomes. First, retention improves because clients can actually see their progress. Second, trust increases because you're showing evidence, not opinions. And third, referrals become much easier because clients can actually share a clear transformation story without posting personal photos online, which most people don't want to do. It turns your good coaching into something visible, and that's incredibly powerful for a PT business.
Yeah, Bhavesh, you bring up a very important point there about posting photos online. So some people hear the word photos and they immediately worry about their privacy. If a guest is concerned about their images being used in the 3D Measure Me environment, what do you say and how do you protect them?
Yeah, Ed, privacy is one of the most common questions we get, and we take it very seriously. The most important thing to understand is we're not in the business of exposing people or repurposing their data. We're in the business of actually helping people. Our systems are all designed with privacy first. We only collect what's needed to create the scan. Photos are automatically deleted after processing. What remains and what we use is your avatar and your measurements. And the avatar is intentionally generic from the neck down to protect people's privacy. Users always stay in control of their data at all times. Sharing your data with your trainer or your gym is permission-based, and only the username, the avatar, and the measurements are shared, nothing else. At the end of the day, trust matters, and if people don't feel safe using the app, the technology just doesn't matter, no matter how wonderful it may be. So privacy isn't just an afterthought for us, it's foundational to absolutely everything that we do.
Now, let's go a step further. If I'm a gym member who has done all of the skin calipers and body tape measurements before, how is 3D Measure Me different and why is it better than those traditional methods?
I remember when I first joined a gym and they did that and how uncomfortable it felt having those calipers touching my stomach. I was like, oh God, it gives me the shivers just thinking about it. Now, traditional methods like the calipers and tape measure can work, but they do come with some very real limitations. Firstly, they're highly dependent on who's actually doing the measuring. Small differences in placement, pressure, technique can change the results significantly. They can also be extremely uncomfortable, highly invasive, and inconsistent, especially when you have different staff measuring each time. Just to give you some perspective on this, if you compress the skin by just 1 centimeter during a waist measurement, that alone will reduce your circumference by over 6 centimeters. If you measure 1 centimeter too high or too low, that can add another 6 centimeter variance again. That's potentially 12 centimeters without even trying. 3D Measure Me removes all of that. It's completely touch-free, it's repeatable, and it's standardized. Measurements follow the exact same path and location every single time, making the results far more comparable. So it's not just more modern, it's more motivating. Because when people can actually see what's changing, they tend to stick with the process.